Have you ever been lost in the middle of the ocean? Adrift? Dark? Nowhere to look? Stars in the sky? How do you navigate? How do you get around? No technology, no phone, no GPS? You can use a map, but where do you go? How do you get there? Join us. So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content, and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. Okay.
Whoa.
We're back at it.
We're back at it.
Yeah.
Hear that, folks? We're live. We're here. We're alive. We're live.
Yeah.
We're here. We're live.
I'm leaning over here just to get a little mood lighting going. There we go. I was looking a little pasty.
You look brighter in a different way.
Yeah.
Did we just go live? That's weird.
I think we did. Most certainly
Like
did.
5 minutes ago. That's on delay.
Yeah. But we're on.
Bling! We're here. So,
So-
folks,
We're going to talk about maps and navigation and
uncharted
cartography.
things, like hair.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going with the hair.
No, I'm just saying it's uncharted. I didn't do
Because
it
it's
today.
filthy, ratty, and oily.
No, it's shampooed. That's fluffy.
Oh, okay.
It's not often shampooed. I will tell you when it's dirty and oily. Now it's just shampooed and fluffy. I don't know what to do with it.
So do you carry any maps with you daily?
None. Mm-mm.
No, because you know where you're going, right? How do you know? Because you used a map once?
This is interesting. I didn't think we were going here this early, but so by trade, I was a delivery driver.
Yeah.
You know what we did?
Looked for landmarks.
Yes, we did. And street names. They're very important. And knowing the city and what venues and roadways and highways connect the cities.
So in your mind, there's like a familiarity with like a street corner. There's different things you're looking for. You can kind of sense, I think, as a human being, you can sense like which direction you're going, north, south, east, west, just by the sun.
Usually.
And you can probably tell by like just the way things feel around you, where you are,
Mm-hmm.
especially in cities or like places that have very unique landmarks.
Yes, 100% agree.
So
But
if you,
that's getting around. Like if
Yeah.
I needed to get out of the city, I just know it was north. I could do that. I couldn't find Bayshore Avenue or 5454 Fishway Drive or anything like that without a GPS or anything. Could we? You mean to tell me we used to have to find places before Googling them?
So that brings out like the road map. Like the road map used to have this like all the streets in an index at the back of it, and you'd have to look for that name and then find the square like C4, and then you go to C4 and you see that, and then you track it back to where you are. You might have to fold the map a few times if it's like on a different page, and then you kind of like chart your course. I remember
You write on it. Yeah, you can write
Highlighter?
on it, bad boy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Those days are. I don't know when that stopped, really. I remember I used to get them from my parents, like, going to college, because I don't think it was a thing yet. Like, I don't think
What
that
was the
phones...
first one? Was it called a Garmin? Do you have a Garmin? Remember?
Yeah, so the Garmin GPS, that existed in college, for sure. For sure.
Right. Probably by the time we were in high school, but it was probably really expensive then. So it's probably by the time we were in college, they were mass produced and
You had a unit that went on your windshield that just gave you
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah.
Wasn't part of your phone.
some people still use them.
I don't doubt it. I don't know how that company survives, though.
Check this one though. How many people do you see driving day to day that have their phone on their console and you can see the map open? This is what gets me a little weird. People. So I think the way Google Maps works, which is the one most people use, Is it it live updates everyone else who's looking at Google Maps
So
because you're a GPS at that point and you're public knowledge, I guess. Um,
yeah, I think it does it
and it
for
gives you
traffic, right? Is what we're leaning
yeah,
into.
right. Well, that's what I'm getting at. So if all these people are on 95 and it knows it's quicker to go off 95 or whatever, you're using all their GPSs
You're a
to
network
tell
of
you
people.
not to go in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. They also do it for like roadways. I don't know that. Like they might have like a satellite image of a roadway, but they don't know that it's actually a roadway until someone drives across it. I guess there's a certain number of people that drive across it at a certain speed. They'll say,
Now, this was a
"This is a road."
year ago. This is a year ago. GPS told us we could take Kelly Drive into the city at one point because we just we needed to get there on like a Saturday morning. Well, I thought it might be closed, but Google's saying it's the quickest way. It's green on Kelly Drive. We got there, boom, it was closed. Of course, it was green. There were no other cars on it slowing it down.
Ah.
But like this, where does Google know when a road is closed?
What were you taking navigation at that point? Was it saying, "Please take us right onto Kelly Drive"?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But they close it like Saturday mornings during the like crew races and stuff. And for I don't know who's in charge of telling Google that Kelly Drive is closed on Saturday mornings for that thing. You know what I mean? Like who does that?
I did hear a story that there was a road that was like extremely hazardous because it was really steep. And like Google knew it was like the shortest route, so it would tell people to go down this one road. But people were really not prepared for it, so they would crash. And it'd just like be like a mess of people just crashing because they didn't know what the hell they were getting into. It's like
Well,
those people don't really know how to navigate. They just know how to take instruction.
so I'm a delivery person by trade. I used to have to know Northeast Philly and then how to get back to Germantown and then how to get back out to Willow Grove. And then from there, if we had somewhere up in Warminster or Bucks County, oh my God, like I'd have to know how to get there. I have to know to get to all these places because cell phones were flip phones. Like you're lucky if you could call work. You actually used to call in work when you get to your stops. You'd be like, "Can I use your phone? I want to call work real quick." "Hey, everything good? I just dropped off Penn Restaurant or whoever." And he'd be like, "Yeah, all's good. How many you got left?" I'd be like, "3 stops." "Okay, see ya." Because there was no way to get in touch with work, no way to find out if they need you to come back, or what if you forgot something, or what if you didn't know that one of your stops was canceled, or how to get to one of your stops. Like
You would
that doesn't happen
rely.
anymore.
It's like, especially if you were lost somewhere, if you're driving and you just didn't know where you were, you'd have to rely on like your dad to be like, "I'm at this street,"
Gas
and he'd be
station.
like, yeah, which gas station? What's the price of gas? Eight
Yeah,
tenths.
yeah.
Donnie's discount gas."
No, 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 Jesus, that would be incredible. No, but gas stations where you would ask for directions.
That's true. You would, yeah.
Yeah,
You'd ask
you
some
could ask.
stranger.
How about asking a stranger for directions? Do you even see that anymore?
That borders on the weird now because it's like,
Right?
how do you get to them? And they're
Use
like,
your
something's on,
phone.
something's up. Can I borrow your phone? Have you gotten that one? I was like, oh, my cheapo phone
No.
you can have, but the other one no.
Yeah. Well, you keep a burner for a borrow phone on you
Yeah.
in case someone's like looks dirty or disheveled and they need to borrow your phone.
I don't think I could. I don't know. My phone is brand new and really expensive, so I was like, I don't want to do that.
I let a guy who looked like strung out, a little beat up around the edges. Maybe looked a little like maybe he did drugs. I don't know this for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a neighbor of mine, but I don't remember seeing him more than once in my whole life. "Can I borrow your phone? I got locked out of my house." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And I didn't want him in my house, but I didn't want to not let him borrow my phone. Nice guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I let him borrow my phone, and I was like hovering around him, like not looking over his shoulder, but constantly within 3 feet. So if
Yeah.
he walked
So
away
you can
three
grab
feet,
him.
I'd be like
So you can
three
grab
feet towards him. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
him.
So he texted his girlfriend, wife, whatever she was, 3 times, called her again. She wasn't picking up. I was like, this is weird. Finally, he was like, "All right, I might have to come back and borrow your phone. I'm locked out. I hope she shows up. Hope she shows up." And he left. And I was like, "That's sad. Okay, thanks." He wasn't messing anyway. He forgot to delete the text, so I looked, and it was like, "Sharon, I need you. Come back. It's all a
Oh.
terrible mistake. I'm sorry I fucked up. Like, this is bad. I need it. I can't get in the house." And I was like, oof. Well, Sharon doesn't know you have a new phone number, pal. She's probably just thinks some rando. But anyway.
You could almost be an accomplice there. Like you gave him the phone, and then it'd be like,
Yeah. You committed a crime. You killed her.
Can I
You
borrow a
killed
knife
her."
too? It's like, what if someone's like, I need a hammer. Also, do you
How
have a
many
Slim
trash
Jim?
bags do you have, sir?
Tape?
Yeah, so
I
what
got
we were
tape.
saying with the phone now, a phone for a delivery person is like anyone could be a delivery person now. We hired a guy who can't read or write, possibly, and he can do the job just as good as me now. It's almost embittering. Like I'm mad. I'm like,
I was good at this
dude,
job.
you have no clue how to get to Porter's daycare and then back, like using the back roads. Shut the hell up. You still Googled it. And he'll be like, yeah, but I got no traffic. Ha ha ha. I'm like, everyone, so mad. I wish there was a GPS outage just for you. You wouldn't know how to get to our first 3 stops, jackass.
So that's got to be like every job that is like simply mathematical, like cashiers. I guarantee there's like cashiers like have to get the numbers right? If they're writing them down.
Right. Can you imagine if they were really good cashier? Like, I can get this. I'm so good. Oh my god, 3 dimes and a nickel. Boom. Oh my god, jeez. Ooh. And now they're like, the machine does the
It's like
math.
ching 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 ching. It's like, wow. So that goes back to
everybody's the same. Okay.
Way back. Let's go way back. So that goes back down
before 1990s.
Yeah, before our lifetime.
Whoa.
So like 900 BC
back,
is they had these guys that were the original navigators of the sea, right? So, what you doing, man? You're right there.
Cartographers.
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 I wasn't sure if that was them, but yeah.
I don't know that they are cartographers. I think they just have
You're
knowledge.
Not a cartographer until you. Do you have to use the ocean to be a cartographer?
I think you have to draw something to be a cartographer. We should
have
researched
a land cartographer. Yeah. That would have been a great one for this episode.
Cartographer of the skies. Can you be a stellar cartographer?
I thought it was like always the sea, like where the sea meets the land. I thought that was a cartographer. Is that something else?
No, yeah, you got it.
Okay, well, thank you. But I'm getting at, can you be a cartographer of land? Like, as you're traveling west through the United States, could you be cartographing mountains?
You can do anything. Anything that's map related.
Cool.
So if you're looking for gold or looking for wildlife or trees or mountains.
Cool.
That's what we're talking about. So back to the sailors of the sea trying to navigate back to port because they didn't know where they were because they had no landmarks. So they that was my segue. So like they said that in 900 BC they had Arabs that were going around the Horn of Africa, and then they would come up and apparently the waters off the coast of Africa are very violent, so they would stay away from the coast, but they couldn't see land. But they needed to know how far up or down, which is what, latitude?
Yeah, yes. Correct. That's correct. That's correct.
So the latitude was essential for them knowing what ports were coming up. So they used something called a kamal, which was like a block of wood, essentially, with a string attached to it. And they would use the block of wood on the horizon and look at the North Star to figure out...
see how far off the North Star was from the horizon.
Yeah. And they would use a string that was attached to their... Like, they would hold it in their mouth, and like the angle that it made with their mouth to the board would tell them how far north or south they were.
Interesting.
Now, the North Star is called Polaris, and I don't know if you know this. Why is the North Star important?
Because it's the only star that actually stays exactly north.
Yeah, and
all
it's
the
also
other stars
pretty
actually
bright
move.
too.
It is bright. That's correct. It's not the brightest star in the sky, I'll have you know.
No, but if it's in the north, how did they use that in the southern hemisphere? Because we're off the coast of Africa now.
It's still in the north.
Yeah, but you lose sight of it somewhere around the equator. There's actually...
Do you? Wait, is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. That's interesting.
There's another set of stars called the Crux, or the Southern Cross, which is similar to the North Star, which we never hear about.
But the southern version?
Yeah. It's less accurate because it's like a
it moves a slight variation.
Constellation. Yep, of stars.
From precession.
So they would use that block and then be able to tell where they were and then take a right to get to land once they realized where the ports were.
Interesting. I actually didn't know that 100%. I knew they used the North Star in the north, etc. I didn't.
Hmm. Hmm. So there's a variety of those instruments. My favorite of which is the sextant.
Sextant. Hell yeah.
So you would use
I
that.
don't know how a sextant works.
It's essentially that you would know the time, and you'd also be measuring the sun and its
Hmm.
relativity to the
The horizon.
horizon. So you could
Wow.
tell the time of the sun setting versus the time you thought it was, and then if your time was accurate, you could measure where you were. Does that make
How
sense?
crazy is this? This sounds like so much work.
It is. So this goes back to being a cashier. Is that I
Uh huh.
guarantee these navigators were super good at their job. If you ever look at the
100%. Right.
tabulations they had to make in
They
order to
probably
be
got. They
accurate.
probably were so good at it, it became second nature. So they could look at it without using graphs or maps or whatever. They were probably like,
Yeah, thumb it.
about another hour.
Yeah,
What? Yeah, about an
yeah.
hour.
They would just look at the sun and be like, "Oh boy, we're 5 miles
Oh boy.
offshore.
Oh
Oh
boy.
boy, oh boy."
Mm.
So that's the
Mm.
necessity of maps, is the original, explorers and navigators going out there and trying to figure out what's out there and how to get back home. Because if you're floating in the
Well,
middle of the ocean and
hmm?
everything's black, I don't know. Have you ever been out on the ocean when it's
No, not
no?
when it's nighttime. I've been there when I couldn't see land in all directions or whatever, but never at night. That would be nuts. Have you?
Yes, I went out on like
Oh wait, I was on a cruise, so maybe I did. And I
yeah.
forgot about
The
it.
cruise is a little bit less unnerving
It's
because
so
there's so many
big, right?
people.
It's so big, and yeah, yeah.
I went out on a tiny boat with like 4 5 people, and we went
Mm-hmm.
out into the Gulf of Mexico, and like the opening, the inlet was next to an amusement park, so it was very bright and like all
Yeah,
these
you could
lights
see
and
the
noises and stuff.
yeah, having a good time.
As we got farther and farther out, he had
Mm-hmm.
a motor that was battery driven, and the battery was like loosely connected, so he like lost it as we were like out there, and it was getting darker and darker, and like the amusement park was a little speck on the horizon, and he was like sparking it to get it to go, and finally he did. But in that moment, I was just like, oh shit, do I have to like swim for this thing? Like, how do I know? Like, you're gonna go adrift.
I think you would just stay in the boat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, unless like I
I'm
guess you'd
not
start
swimming
rowing. I
unless
don't even know if he
somebody.
had oars.
Did you use your hands? I don't know.
So that goes back to also there's other people that have these like kind of rudimentary ways of navigating when they're in a boat.
Mhm.
As like they would have like birds, so birds would like go to shore. Like I guess they fly up, they see land, and then they go to
How do
shore.
they come out? I mean, what if they're on their way the other way?
They would keep them in cages and then release them. So they'd carry these birds with them, and they'd be like,
Do you know
are we
birds
close?"
have Do you know birds have magnetic sense? They can tell
They
north
do.
south in their yeah, it's in their brain. That's how they migrate. Most animals that have this have it's like a sixth sense. But for them, it might not be a sixth. I don't know if they have taste and all that smell. So what happens is they just without knowing they know it, they intrinsically know the north versus the south, and they're pulled to go in one direction at one time of the year, the other at the other. Did you know they did experiments with people? They put something in your pocket that would buzz every time you face north. They did this on a college campus.
Hmm.
After like 3 months of keeping this thing in your pocket, and it would just buzz every time you face north, they would take the item out of your pocket, and anytime you'd walk around campus, you'd know where north was. Like you developed
An
a slight
awareness of
sense.
it. That's
Yeah.
bizarre. So this is called
Right.
magnetoreception. It's a sense in
Okay.
which
Cool.
it allows an organism to detect a magnetic field to perceive direction, altitude, or location.
Mm.
So that you can actually, like, I guess, see the magnetic field in certain animals.
Feel it, I guess. Probably like
It's
it's a whole
sensation.
other sense. It wouldn't be like seeing it. It would be like feeling it, kind of.
So bacteria, arthropods, mollusks,
Really?
and then certain vertebrates.
Why do
Homing
bacteria
pigeon.
need it?
That's why it's a
Well,
homing
so
pigeon.
that's how they do their.
Yeah.
That's how they do their gig. Mm-hmm.
But humans are not thought to have it, but they have a protein called cryptochrome, which is in the eye and can serve this function, aka Wikipedia.
Interesting. Like it.
We're gonna have to look at this because this leads directly into having a compass.
It
So
does.
yeah, so the early guys they were like, we have this thing called a lodestone, and
They
it
were like, come pass, come pass, come pass, come pass.
come pass. So you're gonna have to use this
To get somewhere.
yeah.
Woo.
Get off of this boat.
Get off on this boat. Get off this boat. So what they did is they used it to go north and south without the North Star. They can do it without.
No, but the original compass was a like lodestone, and lodestone would orient itself to the north. And they finally figured out that you could like hone it in, make it more sensitive, put it on an iron needle because you could magnetize the iron needle.
An iron needle is what you use in liquid, I guess. You kind of float it so it can
Yep. Little piece of wood, little
north.
iron, magnetized. Yeah, it points towards north, so it helps with the looking at Polaris. You don't really. I don't know that. Would you rely on the needle or Polaris? I don't know.
If one told you the other way, did you know sailors started believing that the needle was actually drawn to the star?
Oh,
seems kind of cool. I like that idea.
That is a pretty sweet idea because you'd be like, the star is all powerful.
Whoa.
They also had like I think like the Vikings, like the mythology of the Vikings is kind of crazy, and they had like certain tools as well. Mm-hmm. They had what was a stone that could refract and reflect light in such a way that you could tell.
With a prism?
Yeah, it's almost like a prism. It was a calcite. I forget what they called it. A sunstone. Icelandic spar calcite. Icelandic spar. So it was like even if you didn't have the sun out, but like you had little like ambient lighting, you could still see where the sun was, and then based on like the refractions, you could tell like how far the sun was from the horizon.
Is it like a reverse prism kind of?
It's like a double prism. Like you had a prism
right?
that
like
intensified the light and then also angled it in a certain way.
Oh, that's
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, but these things don't exist. I don't know why they don't exist now. I guess they're not as useful to us because we have technology. That said, like,
right, we have something that'll tell you right away. It's like the sun was over there, instead of like holding up a rock and polishing it and hoping that you catch the light in the right way, and you know the dust in the air, and you have to find two of the perfect rock, and you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know where we're gonna go from here.
How about the early cartographers? I got a few biggies.
Hit them.
Ptolemy.
I can't say his name either. Ptolemy.
You just don't say the P, but it doesn't. People might think I don't know the P is there. I know it's there.
Hippocrates.
He was around 150 CE. He drew one of the most famous maps of Rome. It's actually been recreated like 1,000 years later. They redid it. He was obsessed with knowing the boundaries and where things lie and recreating. Some of these maps took guys like 10, 15 years.
I love the way things are shaped on these maps. Like they're so egocentric. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't make sense how like Rome is probably like massive. It's like 90% of the map, and then like little like Asia is like a tiny little sliver, and then like Europe is like a tiny little Britain is a little sliver, and then Africa is just like Libya.
Which place did he explore the most? You know what I mean? Like if you know an area like the back of your hand, you know all the nooks and crannies. If you go to a new place, you're like, whoa, I was in a new place. It's there. It's pretty big.
So the key to making a map is knowing where you are. So that's how being a navigator on the seas plays right into it. We covered latitude, but we didn't really cover longitude.
No need.
Who cares?
It's secondary.
How do you do that?
How did they know? That's still a North Star angle, isn't it?
Well,
that one's actually probably easier. It's probably literally angle of the North Star.
No.
Why not?
Angle of the North Star is north-south. So if you're doing longitude,
you would know how far you are. I guess.
Yeah.
What about the other constellations?
They're constantly spinning, so the Earth is kind of wobbling on its axis and also rotating around the sun.
Right, but they're the same every year. So every November you can see the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper.
So you have this book I don't know that every day is the same from the previous year.
I thought every 12 months repeated, because I thought in November you see the Big Dipper. I thought, you can double check me right now. I thought every August you can see Orion and his belt and what's his name? He's slaying the dragon or whatever.
Goliath, or I don't know his name. But
Yeah, but anyway.
I don't know that it's in the same physical location.
I thought it was.
So like there's a
It's
wobble. This kind of feeds into
Precession.
yeah. But there's a guy who like did I think it was Milankovitch. He did studies on like the extinction of the world and all the what the mass extinctions, and he found that like the combination of the Earth wobbling and its location, the sun is like it's not like we are a perfect circle around the sun. We're oblong,
Right,
we're
we
stretched. So
Right.
he found that like every hundreds of thousands of years we have all of these things
The
measure up.
wobble lines up with the oblong, lines up with the which way we're facing, lines up with which way we're angled, maybe.
Yes, but I don't think you can guarantee that the stars'
Okay,
positions are the same.
I thought it was slow enough that it didn't matter. It takes like hundreds of thousands of years. Did you know, due to precession, which we keep touching on, which is like if you spin a top and it's spinning, but the top of it is slowly spinning, not quite as fast as the top is spinning, but it's moving like this. You know that motion? Like in Inception, where he spins the thing and it's slowly doing this while it's spinning very quickly.
Yeah.
It's called precession. Because of that, the North Star will actually not be in the north within the next like 100,000 years or so.
It's gonna wobble and flip.
It'll be like northeast or something. Huh, screwed all those sailors who aren't using GPS.
Yeah. So how do they do longitude?
I don't know. I'm waiting for you to tell me.
Time.
What?
We should have covered this in the time episode. But like Greenwich Mean Time is Greenwich is actually a location just outside of London. So the sailors would leave from there. And they also have a Royal Observatory right there. So they would use time to tell where they were in relation to the sun and the horizon. If they knew what time it was, they could tell where they were.
So they didn't have time zones.
And they didn't have time zones back then, but they had a chronometer.
Right.
It's like 1714, I think was the first one. I think they attribute that to like a guy named Kendall. And then like 50 years later, I think 1775 is when they attribute Harrison to having one. And they said that it was accurate to within 8 seconds per day. So you could be pretty close to where you were within probably minutes. Well, it depends how long your journey was.
So how did you know what time it was for you?
You knew what time it was from where you started.
Yeah, how do you know?
You were looking at, so the sextant is the key, is that you can tell that the sun is in a certain spot on the horizon, the delta versus where you thought it was. That's how you determine where you are.
Right, but it's moving as you're moving.
True, but the sun is in the same spot at the same spot at that time in the day. If it's directly above you,
how do you know it's been 2 hours versus 1 hour?
If the sun is directly above you, right, it's quote unquote noon.
And you don't know that you're driving east or west or north or south. You're not 100% sure.
Yeah, if your clock says that it's 2 o'clock.
Ooh, that's what I'm asking. Where's your clock?
Where's your clock?
They just had regular clocks?
They had a mechanical clock made by the guy named Harrison.
That's what I was asking you, dude. Yeah. I asked you about the damn clock, and you're like, the sun. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So they had clocks. It told them when you left from where you were, it was the right time.
Yep.
Wherever you end up, if your clock says 4 o'clock and the sun is at a 6 o'clock location, you're 2 hours east or west. I don't know if I did that right, but right?
Something like that, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was the big thing. Like, no one could keep a time well enough to tell where they were. So the longitude, it really messes with people like Columbus, where they're trying to figure out where they were, and they thought they were at Japan.
Is that why they thought they were at Japan?
I think so. That's my guess.
Could be.
Sure. So what were you talking about? Sorry.
Oh, some of the other cartographers of the time, the infamous ones.
Yeah.
Eratosthenes. Oh my God.
He was the first guy, right?
CE? No, the second one. Ptolemy.
Ptolemy was the first. I'm gonna bring up some of these maps as you talk.
Go for it, dude. I actually I didn't write down what he did a map of, but I bet it was like Rome plus like an island. That's my guess.
Did you get an Anaximander? You didn't cover that guy?
No.
No, you didn't. His map was ridiculously ridiculous. It's just like
What was his name?
Anaximander.
What year? Because I think I skipped him.
Oh no, I just
after
clicked past it.
1500?
I'm gonna say 600 BC.
Oh no, I didn't start that early. Go ahead. What's his? Is his like filled with dragons and weird things and lions holding up land and stuff?
This is the ocean in a circle.
Mhm.
Okay, he has Europe, Asia, Libya, Mediterranean Sea, and Black Sea, and then like 2 rivers coming out of it.
No, see, I skipped over these cartographers because they weren't as all encompassing as the ones I'm talking about now. That one's more of a generic.
Yeah, you
We
could
call
have
that
guessed it.
generic cartography.
I'm gonna bring
Like
this up.
the
Make sure I don't forget to change this here.
Sure.
There you go. Europe, Asia, Libya, ocean. Just a giant circle.
Ocean. So, Al Idrisi.
Uh-huh.
He was from 1154, so we're talking like 900 years later almost. It took him 15 years. He did one of the better maps of Eurasia and North Africa that they used at the time. It was like the most accomplished map, and they were like, wow, this is incredible. The first world map I could find was from my man Gerardus Mercator.
Oh, hey.
1569. He did a map of the world.
Oh, I love how North America looks.
Mm-hmm. Sexy, right?
It's actually, I don't know how to deal with it. I'm going to try to bring this up. It's
So here, Google this so we can all look at this at one point.
Yeah.
Upside
I'll bring this
down
up.
map.
I'll bring this one up. Here you go.
Okay.
Throw this one.
No,
Throw
I
this
wanna
one to you
actually look
guys. Oh yeah, there's the because this is ridiculous. This is 1569. Mercator.
Yeah.
So like he didn't have it. You can tell obviously where he didn't, because we already know. We know we have more information than he did.
Right.
It's like,
of course,
North America is all distorted up top. He obviously went to the Gulf of Mexico. I guess he has these like dots that were like accurate where he was. It seems like he made notes. And then like South America looks.
He just guesstimated the rest, sort of.
Yeah, like the inland areas where he didn't sail, he must not have tried.
Well, how do you don't have enough time to go in every inlet in the world?
No, you're gonna get killed by natives too.
Someone did.
China.
So,
he has this giant Antarctica. He doesn't know it. Like, it's like a land of ice and fire. I don't know. Yeah.
Of course.
And if you were what's the word? Commissioned by like a king to like plot the Earth. What do? You just like have like a deadly dragon.
I left it blank. Yeah. No. Just fill it the hell in. Just fill it the hell in. Write whatever the hell you want. He's not gonna double check you. You know what I mean? King's not going there to make sure every point was correct.
So there actually is a video game that I played on like Sega Genesis that the whole point of the game was for you to discover the Earth, and you were actually commissioned by a king to like find all the ports. And
really?
Yeah.
What game was this?
I don't remember.
Are you sure it's a real game? That sounds sick.
No, that was a real game. You could.
It was amazing. Columbus too, or something?
Yeah, kill all the natives. No. But you would like form this like fleet of ships. You'd have galleons, and then like you'd like fight pirates and like fend your way through the world. And then when you came back, you were a baller. Like you're like, even though Christopher Columbus is probably a terrible person, you come back and you're just like, boom, here's some special spices, here's my map, and pay me a boatload of money, and I'm gonna go and sail the world again, because that's what I do. I'm an explorer.
Sounds like a pretty repetitive game. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you really enjoy your riches, or were you just going back out there to work again?
Took me a long time to find Rio de Janeiro, but I did it. Discovered it. Carnival, baby.
So pull up this one for the audience, because this is an interesting exercise. MacArthur's Universal Corrective Map.
Oh, MacArthur's? Oh, I got it.
MCARTH. So MacArthur, I think his name was like Tom MacArthur. I forget his first name. He's an Australian scientist, map maker, whatever he was. On Australia Day, which is January 26th, ironically enough.
This is so blurry.
Yeah, it's the closest thing to January 26, 1979, he made a map the way it was meant to be.
Upside
Australia
down.
to the north, or the south
South.
to the top. Excuse
Yeah.
me. So if you look in, I downloaded another map that was a little clearer.
How does that make you
People will
feel?
do. Oh, dude, if you stare at it long enough and all the names are right side up, like I'm looking at Alaska right now, I'm like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And then you get over to Eurasia, looking like Norway and Sweden and stuff. That's not natural. They look like a weird peninsula. It's like inverted. It's like a chubby wiener thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like even Australia looks like a cat or something coming down to attack the rest of the land. It doesn't.
It's a Cerberus wiener.
Yeah. But like even Africa, that doesn't look. It's upside down. It's weird how we've been garnered to look at maps a certain way. South America. I mean, yeah, South America looks like. I don't get it. I'm like, it's just upside down.
Corrected map of the world.
But he wanted to make it so that, what if the South was the top? Because we have a North top prejudice.
Yeah, we do. We certainly do, yeah.
I actually know where it began.
Us.
Read Now Jazeera piece by Nick Danforth. I love the name of his article. It was a cartographic history of what's up. I was like, clever. So Arabs and Chinese, when they were making their maps in like the just CE era, just after BC,
Yep.
up was always south. They think the Chinese made their maps with south is up, and that the Arab countries were just copying them.
It makes sense for a country that has to travel south or one direction, right?
I mean, the wooders down there, like that's where they go. They all travel this way. That's the way you're traveling, right?
But in their bias, they're thinking about it on like an outward is upward, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna, it's the same thing with like if you're on the ground and the horizon is south of you, like below you, then the north is up. It's away. It's like the things you don't know, or the sky.
Early Egypt, a lot of their maps, south was up. They think that because the Nile went north, I believe, and they figured wherever the water was going was down because of gravity. That makes sense, doesn't it?
That's a weird, that's a creepy way to put it.
Isn't that crazy? But think about it.
That is like
I don't know this. It's just a theory, but think about it. Because water's traveling down to the lowest point. Well, that must be down.
What's Thor's homeworld?
Who? Thor?
Thor? His homeworld? Asgard. It's like that waterfall at the end of Asgard. It just kind of like drops into nothingness.
Kind of floats. Yeah.
I wonder if those people had that fear because they didn't have a map. They didn't know that it was circular. Flat earthers.
They made some maps. We might get there. Did you know medieval Europe? All the maps of Europe. Up was to the east.
Because they were constantly battling the people to the east, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Military advantage.
Yeah. Religious even.
Yeah.
Implications.
Ah.
But then around 15 to 1600, when cartography, sailing, armadas becoming a thing, Spain and Italy were some of the top map makers at the time, as we're well aware. Up was north, according to them. And they were also sailing, particularly all their maps are made by sailing. So they were using the ocean. And when you use the ocean as opposed to people on foot, etc., you're probably using the North Star.
Yeah, well, the world powers at that time were probably what? Britain, France, Spain, and Italy.
Can you imagine if they were at the bottom, like we just looked at that weird map? Speaking of which, did you switch it back to us?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Excellent. Just checking.
Yeah.
So my man, 2nd century Ptolemy, the Hellenic cartographer, they tried to recreate his stuff in the 16th century. A lot of these Spanish and Italian people. Gerardus Mercator, Martellus Germanus, Martin Waldseemüller.
Oh, we don't know.
That was the worst name I could find. I was like, oh my god, I'm not even looking at it.
There were so many names. I was like, no one cares to remember all these.
No. And I wrote them down and I just wanted to mention them. But I look at their maps trying to recreate stuff, and this is a common theme with old maps and flat earth maps and maps from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They all have like angels or cherubs blowing wind and shit all over the place.
Sirens.
And it's like,
Like sea
Yeah, and
monsters.
you're like, whoa!
I didn't know
The
there
edge
was
of
a
the
sea
world.
monster
And you're
there.
like, this is the coolest map I've ever seen, but it doesn't make any sense. It's like an old guy who has to blow wind from the east, and he's like, what's he doing? Blowing wind 24/7? Does the guy have a life? Does he have a job? Does he pay taxes? Is he just blowing wind? Anyway, that's as far as I got on maps. Actually, I had some other stuff on the different kind of maps. Like so we don't ever tell people to check out other podcasts, but if you did Vsauce Maps episode, he does an episode on maps and how they're not accurate because the world is a 3D object, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a globe. It's a 3D thing. Anytime you try and imprint a 3D image onto 2D, you have to distort one of two
Axes?
one of two
Just
qualities. Area or shape.
Yeah.
Right. So what we use, if you look at Google Maps uses the mercator projection, named after a man mercator. So if you look at that map, you go to Google, you friggin' like, I love the maps on Google. Boom. That's a mercator projection. It's one kind of map. It's not every map. If you go on it, it keeps the shapes so good. You look at Sweden, you're like, I see those lines. Hell yeah. You look at Africa, you're like, that's the perfect line.
Oh crap.
You look at like certain countries, like they have the good lines. Problem is, they're not as big as you think they are because they distort area. On his video, which we wouldn't tell you to watch because you want to keep watching us, he does a video where it shows how Greenland is about the size of Africa on the mercator projection, right? Problem is, if you put them together in real life, you could put Greenland in there, you could put the United States in there, you could put China in there, you could put like.
Should I bring up the Winkle triple projection?
Oh, well, that's another interesting one. So that one, the National Geographic does not use the mercator projection. They use the what's the hell is it called? Winkle triple.
Hold on, let me get it.
Projection, and it
Coming
looks
right
a little funny. It's like thinner. It's like longer.
Yeah. It's it very obviously makes Greenland very small compared to Africa. Africa's huge. Yeah.
If you think about it. So in any of these maps, you kind of have to either sacrifice area or shape. One of the really accurate ones is called the Gall-Peters map. In it, if you look it up, all of the areas are actually almost perfect. I think it's Gall-Peters. I'm not sure if it's Peters or Peters.
Clicked on it. I got it.
But if you look at it, it's like it's thin as hell. Everything looks distorted and weird.
Smashed up the top.
Their areas are more accurate. So any 2D map you look at is actually not accurate. You have to sacrifice one of two things: shape or area.
It makes Europe look extremely small, and you wonder why.
Right?
Like, I mean, you don't wonder why. The people who are in power will try to make their countries look larger.
So you want your country facing north, and you want your country looking big, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing, I guess. There's like dozens of maps you could use that vary area and shape. There's butterfly maps that flip open. There's the mall-wide. It looks nice, and it's the one that you see that is in a lot of science books. They break it apart by the oceans, so there's like a half hemisphere here, half hemisphere here, half hemisphere here. Type in good Homolocene project. I don't know. Don't worry about it.
I can't do it.
If you've looked at a science book, this is a map you'd probably say.
Bring it
It's
back
like
to
a combination of like area and shape, but like they break it into like 8 hemispheres and they're all half connected. It's a weird look, but you've seen it before and you're like, I used to see that in science.
Like you're about to wrap it on a globe. And also,
kind
of. The globe is not a perfect sphere. So it's a weird kind of stretched shape along the equator. So it makes it very odd, which is how this happens.
Have you ever seen a map of that centers the other half of the world? Like, you know how America and North America is to the west, and Europe's to the east? Have you ever seen a map that does the opposite and has like this side?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird looking. Do one of them and upside down, you'll be like, that's not the world.
That's
a lie, buddy.
Like what kind of like you get a weird like anxious feeling when you feel like the world isn't how you thought it, it's really strange. It's like I don't know who I am when you look at a map like that. It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. It's like it feels really strange to not know. I don't know how the people
It does.
existed back then.
My my father is one of the best people in the world with directions.
With
He is one of the
directions?
Yeah, I swear to God. My dad, because he was a delivery driver by expertise or whatever,
Yeah.
and drove all over the city outside, he would tell me, all right, if you want to go to Penn Restaurant, you're going to go up, Easton Road, you're going to hit 152, you're going to make a left. It's right by the ice cream shop. And I'll say, okay, Dad, I'm not really listening. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I can figure that out. Before phones.
Mhm.
He says, you're going to want to go down. The road's going to split in, like, I don't know, 500 feet, 500 yards, somewhere between there. You'll figure it out. When it splits, you're going to see a black van that's always parked there. I was like, Dad, the van might not be there. He's like, there's going to be a black van there. Go left at the van. Okay. And I'm like, okay. Like, I used to write down little mini notes, which is crazy. Anyone who's under 30 has never written down notes for where to go.
Yeah.
But this is for my father for deliveries. I was like, I better get this right. Then he'd be like, the road curved off to the left a little bit. You'll see like a bridge. Usually there's an old guy smoking a pipe. And I'll be like, Dad, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And he'd be like, it's just usually. So I go and do a delivery one time, and I'm following his directions, and the black van was there. It was a broken down vehicle. That's not too hard. I got you that. But it was there. There was a guy smoking a pipe. I'm not kidding. One time in front of a 7-Eleven or something like that, like a convenience store. I made the left spot, and I was like, holy crap, that's the guy. And I made my delivery. And to this day, I think my dad's like, he's incredible with directions. And the fact that there's GPS now, he's like trying to tell people directions, or like, he's like, what you're going to do is like 6 blocks. Usually the road's closed because of a car accident. Like my dad's like prognosticating, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to GPS it. And he's like, I'm just telling you.
So I remember times when people like they come to my house and they don't know how to get back to the highway, and
I
really,
got I got to your house the wrong way once. So the next time I went, I took the same route because it looked familiar to me. I got to your house wrong 3 times once because I kept going the wrong split at one of the Sunoco's or something right past the Buck Hotel. Oops.
oh well, revealing. So that was my old house.
Ooh.
My new house, literally, if you're going to the highway, you get out of the neighborhood, you make a left, you make another left, you make a right, and then you go down to a certain street, and I named it, make a left, and then another right. So like people, when you give them like 5 directions, they're
Yeah,
just
that
like,
sounds like a lot to people nowadays.
oh, what?
It's weird.
Throw it back to like a video game, mini maps, like Zelda or like an EverQuest type of thing. Anything where you're trying to navigate, like back then, if you're playing a video game and someone said, "Oh, it's over that hill. There's gonna be a guy dressed in red, and he's gonna point you in the right direction from there," or like it was a perfect one, like an Oblivion like style game, like
Oh, that's a crazy game. Those have some. You're right.
yeah, Morrowind would just be like a bunch of jagged hills. People that could navigate that, like in their brains, it must have fixated like how to navigate things that don't make sense, or like there's a weird sort of
Landmarks.
understanding. Yeah, not the magnetoreception you were talking
Landmarks.
about earlier, but like,
No, there's no magnetoreception in a game. God damn it.
but it's exactly like there's people who are absolutely terrible with directions, and it's surprising that they can function in normal life when they have to deviate from what they know or what they already do.
Here's the problem. You don't have to do it anymore.
You don't. You
You
can
need to
live
be
the
a
same life you
moron.
wanted over and over again.
There are people watching this video that don't know how to get to work without GPS. I guarantee it. Maybe not guarantee it. No? It's possible.
I find that really difficult to like to always have to use GPS.
But it's not a big, like, to do it isn't a big deal. It's easy. I do it so this is another thing. So, I was bragging about being a delivery guy, having to know my way around the city, et cetera, et cetera. When, like,
As much as
the
brag as you
last
can
year, the last year or two of working as a delivery guy,
do. Mm-hmm.
I don't do it anymore. I would GPS most of my stops.
Just to know that you had the shortest route. Fastest route.
Yeah, and sometimes I would find a couple blocks. I'd be like, "Oh, cool! I can cut this street. That's
So
awesome."
how does GPS work?
It does work. I mean,
So
I'm not knocking it.
I think there's on the order of like 24 satellites that are orbiting the Earth, and there's multiple iterations of GPS. So there's 24 that I think they move about double the orbit of the Earth.
Wait, just 24 satellites are giving us all this information?
Yeah. So like
That's
GPS is
wild.
like a unidirectional thing. They are constantly spamming the Earth with
With their where they are, or their speed, what they see, what direction they're going, that kind of a thing.
I think they just say which satellite they are and what time they think it is.
Oh, so then the our computers do the rest.
Yeah, it's almost like seismic data. Like when you have an
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
earthquake, you know how strong it was a certain distance away, so you can like map out from different locations how strong it was to reorient to the epicenter.
You want me to blow your brain?
Oh, yeah.
S waves and P waves, baby. Do you know
Oh,
S waves travel through liquid different speed than P waves travel through liquid
it's like the
or
depth
solid?
of the crust of the Earth, right?
You combine the two, and you figure out how much liquid it's traveled through, how much solid it's traveled through, and where their origin was,
Yep.
based on how deep or whatever you think it is.
Drawing the two circles, they intersect in two spots.
Yeah.
Like they
Oh, yeah.
could have been north or south. You get a third one, you know exactly where it is.
Yes, triangulation,
Oh.
which is ironic because that's tri. Is that why it's triangulation? Because it's three things?
Mm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The GPS satellites, I think it was a minimum of 6. So you have full coverage of the entire Earth with GPS. So you can pick up the signal from any one of those. Actually, you need 3 of them, right? So maybe it's like a double factor of 2.
Combination. Yeah, they probably
Yeah.
combination. Yeah.
Multiple safety. So
Yeah.
you can tell exactly where you are with those 6 satellites that will probably be accessible from your phone or whatever other device you have.
Do you know how fucked we'd be if GPS went down?
So like ships would have a hard time navigating. I guarantee
Mm-hmm.
like the whatever you order from China might take a while to get here. I don't know if people would know how to. They'd sail in the right direction, but they might be off a little bit.
I'm worried more about day-to-day things that use that technology, like
Trucking
to complete. Yeah, like anything. How about any of our computer-driven vehicles?
or missiles.
Yeah, our
You didn't
missiles.
have
Holy
GPS. I
shit!
don't know that the missiles would be able to track where they needed to go.
Oh,
You'd just be spraying and praying.
pretty much. This military thing I've heard you say. Were you in the military for like a stint?
I kind of wish I was. I'd be a veteran, but I was never in the
You
military.
You
But
really just went for the discounts.
I did work on
Car dealerships. Mm-hmm.
I worked on the E2C Hawkeye radar, which is like that plane with the giant black dome on top. With only like 2 of those, or maybe 3, you could cover like the entire United States radar for Air Force stuff. And then
Really?
in conjunction, everyone else at that site worked on the anti-missile missiles, the Patriot missiles.
Okay, yeah, the anti-ballistic missiles or whatever they're called that
Mhm.
knock the missiles out that are incoming.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So GPS is essential for telling a missile where it is and where to go.
Now, Google News tracks us every day and gives me some really good suggestions for what to read on and some really clickbaity, awful, terrible articles.
Oh yeah.
Lately, I've been getting ones for the Earth is ready to reverse its magnetic field.
Yep. That's not true, but
I didn't think it was at all. I mean, I think it's more of a, well, it happens every so and so thousand years. Maybe we're due, question mark. One of those articles.
flat earther article.
Not quite, but close to it. So the Earth does reverse its magnetic poles, right?
Yeah, I think that was part of the Milankovitch cycles.
Okay. Now, are we due? In a general sense, in that we're due
How
for
would you
a
know?
super volcano or a, I don't know. I guess you wouldn't know. It's not really cyclic. It's more random.
You want us to ponder for a moment?
I do.
It's like the
But if it did, would that fuck everything?
for like GPS signals? No. For compasses? Maybe. You just point south.
Well, jeez, what's my cough coming on from? I think the poles are about to reverse.
Yeah.
We're due for something, okay? Some kind of natural disaster. I want everyone to tune in when it happens. Would we be good at consoling the populace, or like burning the flames of chaos? Well, I guess the animals could be anywhere. In our homes, in your dishwasher. Dishwasher.
It's like bird. What was that? Bird Box? No, was it Bird Box? Wait, the Bird Box? Bird something.
Blindfold, right?
Yeah. If you had invisible monsters that were attacking you, and you had somebody that was like trying to tell you like how to defeat them, and he was making jokes, like cracking.
I didn't see it. Is that what he does?
No, that's. I'm just saying, if we were trying to tell people how to save their lives, we were like,
calm them down. We're like, oh,
just trying to go up on a tangent, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is he talking about?"
Oh, by the way, we don't know for sure, but
the key is water.
Water. Oh, I forgot. That's the reason I brought up my dad, who's the best map guy I know. He's the best direction guy I know. He knows how to get everywhere in every area. He knows every highway, every shortcut. He always says one thing to me, because I'm a big science fan. He isn't. And it applies to this directly. He says, how do you know? I'm like, Dad, they made a map and tracked the outline of the city and where it meets the water, and the peninsula comes out this far. And he's always like, how do you know that's exactly it? And I'm like, I know, Dad. They got paid to do it. He's like, how do you know? And I'm always like, Dad, it's in a book. It's real. And to this day, him asking that makes me think, I mean, could we be off by a few meters on a few coastlines? Could.
So there's two things. There's two things you triggered there. It's like solipsism, which is
how do
like
you know anything?
If it's you only know what's around you, what you can visually perceive. So if I'm solipsistic and fully believe it, I can only believe in the things that are in this room because that's what I see. So like the people
you feel, see, you can touch.
The people back then that didn't have a map, they were probably more heavily solipsistic because they were like, I can believe in what this is. Not like technology and science
also,
and other people.
Half their maps were bullshit anyway,
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
a sea dragon comes for you if you cross the north.
But who's
parallel.
To say half of our maps aren't bullshit, or half of the stuff we have isn't bullshit? I'm not saying it is. I'm saying if half of it was bullshit for them, wouldn't it apply that half could be bullshit for us? Half the information we get.
I don't know.
This causes cancer. This causes a problem. This is healthy. This isn't.
There's so many overlays of all the pictures of the Earth that you have to figure that they have it down pretty well. Right?
Are we getting into the blue marble picture?
Yeah, so you leaned on this before where up is north or not. The blue marble picture is actually...
which is the one everyone loves. It's the most famous picture, taken in 1974 by Apollo...
something.
Apollo something.
I'm going to look at it.
Anyway, it's actually flipped. The picture is where south is north and north is up, or north is down, south is up. And NASA, upon sending it back, etc.,
Apollo 8, 1968.
Oh my God.
Wait. Image 1972. Sorry.
72. That's why. Yeah. Taken from 45,000 km. That's kilometers for you folks. Anyway, the picture is upside down. It was actually taken upside down. So we flipped it to make it look like the north was up.
And then also like cloud cover to like figure out what the continents look like. You have to take multiple pictures and then overlay them.
You have to overlay a lot.
Yeah. And then so I worked with some people that also did like lunar samples when you have a rock. So there's like a geographic informational system too. So like in order to reconstruct 3D things, like there's a way that like ArcGIS is what it's called, is how you reconstruct 3D objects. People would do that on lunar samples to reconstruct the lunar rocks and see how they fit together. What porousness matters apparently. I'm not a rock guy. I'm rock hard, but I'm not a rock guy.
Every time you talk about the planets, you are.
Oh yeah.
This kind of ties it all back together. Maps are us trying to figure out in the world what we're looking at, where we live, what's going on around us. It's visual. It's very cut and dry. We like lines. I mean, it's a solid line. The coastline isn't a solid line ever, right?
That like the separation between like states. Like you have like what Utah, Colorado, and like
Yeah.
Nevada. They just arbitrarily like there's a line there. That's separation. But that doesn't happen ever in nature.
In nature.
Isn't that bizarre that we are the only people that are like, I would like things in cubes to bring
Of
it
course
back
we
to
would. That seems very us. That seems very us.
like Minecraft?
No, I'm going with money.
I'm
You can tax up to a certain point.
No.
You can own up to a certain point.
So like the original thing I was going to talk about when we first started this is like getting lost. And now there are very few video games that you can actually like wander out and be lost forever.
That's a good point.
Minecraft is one of the few where you can wander out into the wilderness and then be like, how the hell do I get home? And
You make a home.
Yeah, you start making
That's
a home
the
right there.
funnest thing. Yeah, that's cool.
Oddly enough, Nick and I both played Minecraft together, and we essentially made a North Star out of lava. We had a tower of lava that led us back to our original home.
Double spiral lava.
Yeah.
We encased it in glass
To protect it. Yeah.
I think to make it look cooler.
That's because.
Yeah, that's 100% that.
But is that like providing a beacon, a lighthouse? That's essentially cartography, right? I mean, you're providing a sense of where you are.
Well, you want to know where you are. You want to know where your boundaries are. You want to know how to get to here, how to get back, how far it is from here and back. In a way, you want to know logistics. You want to know,
Here and there and back again.
Is it easy for me to get food? Yeah. Is it easy for me to get this? Yeah. If I'm out here, can I get this already? This happens in delivery driving. If you're doing a delivery to Northeast Philly and someone tells you they have a South Philly delivery, you don't do it on the same run.
Yeah.
If someone says they have Fox Chase and Northeast Philly, you're like, yeah, right there. Perfect. Like there's weird things that you want to know logistics. You want to know logically where everything's connected, where all the edges are, where the boundaries are, what's close to what. What do we need to get to what? And what I find ironic is that according to maps, according to different maps, we're not always right. There's no one map. There's no one picture of the world. There's no one
way to live your life, path you choose, ways to get to someplace.
Yeah, it's all different.
Spirals out of control.
Spiral out. Spiral out. Yeah.
It's like red and black? No.
Yeah, black and white. How I see. I forget now.
Oh, lateralis.
Lateralis. Spiral out, folks. How do we
I don't know. But we should end on that.
Check your maps, folks. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to donate to our map Patreon, please do. If you want to see secret episodes we've been hiding from you, please donate.
Please read the book Longitude by that guy that I will never read.
It's called Latitude. Check it out.
Whoa, it's Longitude.
Are you sure?
Yeah, what did we cover? Navigation, stars, sextants, malls, Minecraft, Tower of Fire,
Arabs,
lava,
the Chinese,
Southern Cross, Polaris, North Star,
Medieval Europe,
the rotation of the Earth,
non-stop about
the wobble,
the
weeble wobble.
Al Idrisi was the map king.
Harrison's chronometer.
Yeah, 2D versus globe.
Altitude, we didn't touch on at all, but that's important. Also, somehow, sunstones
versus
GPS, satellite images,
shape,
road maps, Google Earth, landmarks.
Oh my God!
All those explorers and cartographers.
Did you know the electromagnetic frequency? If it was spread from New York to LA, right? That's a visual frequency. Like that's just electromagnetic frequency. Boom, boom. Like frequencies, gamma rays, radio waves, every kind of wave. The visual waves, the ones that you can see with your eyes,
are only Small fraction.
100 nanometers.
I don't know what that means.
100 nanometers. Like, I think it's 3,000 miles or 3,000 kilometers from New York to LA. Does anyone know? It's like a famous...
3,000 miles.
Okay. So if that were the entire length of electromagnetic frequencies that are possible,
we only see the nanometers.
We only see 100 nanometers.
It's like 0.00% something.
Yeah, 0.0001 meters.
I like how you use miles and then convert it to meters.
I listen, because the only way I know is... Do you know how many kilometers it is from LA to New York?
Oh. I like how you're measuring United States.
I didn't.
you're 0.0035%. That's what.
Huh. That's not terrible.
Yeah.
Except that that's all we can see of ways to see things.
Yeah. Check our radiation episode. As exciting as that was.
Number one stunner. Thanks for bringing the heat, folks. Thanks for listening. If you want to donate money for me to fix my hair, please do.
If you want to donate money to fix Nick, like fix him permanently so he can have babies, we'll also accept that money. Get him fixed.
Well, gang. Let's do it. Fix Nick, fix Nick.
Fix.
And I'm like, oh, they want to help me. And they're like, no, no babies. Like,
oh. Good night, guys.
Thanks for joining us. We like you. We like you
a lot.
A lot.